This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
All right, we'll get to this San Francisco 49ers matchup in just a couple of minutes. First, download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. That's what we call guaranteed, my friends. Also, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Of course, it's game time. All right, let's get to some headlines, Greg. And when you look at this game, the first thing you notice is the injury report. My goodness, injuries galore. Let's start with San Francisco. Deebo Samuel expected out. Run CMC literally flew to Germany for some kind of treatment on his Achilles, which doesn't sound good. Javon Hargrave tore his pec. I think it was on the triceps, tore his triceps, so he's going to be out. George Kittle limited at yesterday's practice. We're recording this on Thursday early afternoon. Brock Purdy has a sore back. He was a full participant, but his back's a little cranky. How does that impact San Francisco, their game plan, and what they could look like on Sunday?
Well, I mean, I think against most teams, it would impact them a lot. Against the Patriots, I don't think it impacts them all that much. I mean, I think the big thing is, Trent Williams, he missed practice with an illness. I assume he's going to be back. We also saw him go out of the game against the Rams, but he did return. At first, it looked scary. That's a guy they pretty much can't afford to lose because he's one of the best in the league. But in the hands of a different offensive coordinator, especially what's going on with their offense, you would say like, I don't know what they're going to do. And against, a defense like the Patriots, but with Kyle Shanahan and the Patriots defense, I don't really think it disrupts them all that much. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's such a wizard that if Kittle's not available, then he'll use Juszczyk more. And, Juwan Jennings, the wide receiver, really busted onto the scene last week with a huge game against the Rams. Ayuk, it still seems like with his holdout and everything, they're still trying to get him acclimated into the offense. And, of course, not having Deebo and not having McCaffrey out there definitely makes a guy like Brandon Ayuk, instead of being like the third option or the fourth option, now he's the number one option, and it's different, and teams are going to play you different. And so I don't have a ton of concerns. I mean, the Hargrave injury probably in the near term for this team, for the 49ers, is probably the most troublesome. I mean, he's one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league, and I will say that I haven't been overly impressed with the 49ers defensive line, especially, without Hargrave. Of course, Nick Bosa is Nick Bosa, and, he's great. But outside of that, I don't think that this 49ers defense is all that formidable.
Yeah.
Fred Warner, of course, is probably the best defender, regardless of position in the league. But if he doesn't have those big guys like Hargrave and those guys up front taking up blockers and letting him run sideline to sideline, he's not quite as good. So, I think we'll get into the Patriots injury situation, but I would say, slight advantage to the Patriots offense, with the injuries that are going on with the 49ers. And I would say not much of an advantage for the Patriots defense going up against the San Francisco offense.
Yeah, you mentioned Hargrave. Let's look in the trenches because the Patriots injury report, my goodness, no bueno. So Michael Jordan, Vidarian Lowe did not practice yesterday. Andrews, So, and Wallace were all limited. How concerned are you about this offensive line, Craig, with all of these injuries stacking up now at this point?
I mean, Nick, we're staring at the possibility that DeMontre Jacobs, who finished the game against the Jets at left tackle, who was one of their waiver claims, could be basically the fourth left tackle for this team in 4 games. And that's pretty scary. I'm surprised that David Andrews, like it says, not injury related, rest, that he missed practice on Wednesday. I think we talked about it last podcast. David's play the last couple of weeks has been concerning, and I think he is dealing with something. He's the ultimate tough guy. He's not going to let anybody know. He probably doesn't want to even be on the injury report. Yeah. I'll be interested to see what his designation is today. Maybe they did give him quote unquote rest on Wednesday, but he might be limited today with an injury. But Michael Jordan's a guy that I think has played well in the first 3 games. Now Sidy Sow is on his way back. He was limited with an ankle. I think I would rather have Michael Jordan out there. But yeah, of course, with the Patriots offensive line situation, this is not making it any better.
Nah, I mean, it's crazy. They just haven't been able to find any chemistry or continuity up front. Injuries, Chooks leaving the team due to mental health. I mean, there's just so many things going on where it's impossible to really evaluate what they originally wanted to do, because they just haven't been able to do it. And now they just keep falling deeper and deeper into this hole. Not only offensive line, you also look at the defensive backs, Greg. Jonathan Jones, Christian Gonzalez, both limited. Alex Austin did not practice. Of course, Austin was getting snaps the last game over Marco Wilson because Wilson had not played well. Mm-hmm. So the secondary is also dinged up here, and I would imagine Kyle Shanahan has taken notice of that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, when we talk about this matchup and we'll get further into it, I don't think there's anybody better in the league at especially now that Belichick's not in the league, at looking at an opponent and seeing what they do well or don't do well or where they're having injury problems and exploiting that. And so, I don't know if this is going to be a huge air game for the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, they are going to, dial up some things. I was just watching their film, and the first touchdown to Juwan Jennings was just like a Kyle Shanahan special where, yep. they totally got the defense to buy in that it was going to be a run and bring the safety down. And even Juwan Jennings is like, faking that he's going to block, and there's motion all this way. And then all of a sudden Jennings just pops out and he's wide open in the end zone. I mean, that's Kyle Shanahan. That's play calling. That's scheme. And he's the best at it. But, the Patriots defense, especially their secondary, Nick, and I think you would agree with this, especially after what we've seen, at least against the Jets and maybe late against the Seahawks, they are going to have to tackle in this game. Yeah. And tackle a lot, so that these guys are a little bit dinged up and traveling across the country. They're going to have to gird up and really play tough to keep this game close.
One more injury note, because yes, if you were wondering, there is more that I think might get overlooked this week because of the offensive line stuff and because of Christian Gonzalez. Anthony Jennings. Now, he did not practice yesterday. We'll see how, this goes the rest of the week. But I was surprised. I was looking at some stats, Greg, this week. And one of the things that shocked me was that Anthony Jennings, I was looking at ESPN and their, run block win rates and their, winning against the run for edge defenders. ESPN's metrics, they actually have Anthony Jennings as the #1 run edge defender this year so far. And we'll get into this a little bit more in depth, but San Francisco runs outside the tackles an awful lot. And we saw the discipline or lack thereof on the pass rush from the defense last week against the Jets. And now the guy that's been the best in the league, obviously best on your team, setting the edge, is a DNP due to a shoulder. With this specific matchup, that could be a big issue.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. I completely agree. I mean, I think Anthony Jennings has done a lot of really good things, especially, against the run and setting the edge and making negative plays. Like his improvement over the last 2 years has been astounding. He sort of really announced himself last season as the season went along, and he's tremendous. I mean, I'm guessing that, and they don't even have a guy like Xemenes who flashed during training camp and all that stuff, and he's on IR now. I take it they're going to have to probably move Tavai to edge. Big, strong guy, can set the edge, does a lot of really good work against the run. Also, when he's on the edge, he's not as good, I think, when he's at inside linebacker, which he's had to be for Bentley. I think they're going to have to look at some other options and moving Tavai. Maybe they play Ellis or somebody like that. But I totally agree. I think Anfernee Jennings, not talked about that much, but been a really good player. And this is the type of team, San Francisco, because basically what they're going to have to do is, to have any hope at stopping or corralling this offense, they're going to have to set the edge hard in the run game and make the 49ers play in a phone booth. And if Jennings isn't there to do that, they definitely take a hit.
Maybe Jamri Croma is the guy that comes off and then all of a sudden's on the active roster. We heard that he's decent at the point of attack. All right, we'll get into the quarterback conversation because there's a number of quarterback notes Greg wants to hit. But before we get to that, Greg also wants to tell you about Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in, just like I did last week. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. And you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Okay. I'm sure everybody's been looking forward to this because I hit last week. And of course,
feel like we need a drum roll. Bedard, by the way, Bedard's been peacocking all week about these bets on Prize Picks last week, walking around his house, telling his wife and his kids how great he was.
Exactly. You know me, Nick. And so this week, I'm sort of pressing my luck a little bit. I'm going with an extra pick. So, of course, we have the Caleb Williams free square.
Yes.
I am going, and I mixed in some more 49ers because I feel a little bit better about them. So I'm going Antonio Gibson, more than 6.5 receiving yards. I think that we heard Alex Van Pelt today tell reporters that way to telegraph yourself. But this is a what do you term it? Get the ball out quick game. So who are the players that are closest to Jacoby Brissett? The running backs. So I feel good about the backs in the passing game. So 6.5 more for Antonio Gibson. I'm going Ramondre Stevenson, more than 13.5 receiving yards. Hopefully they can hit a screen pass. I'm sure they're going to dial one up early. Now I'm going to the 49ers. Nick Bosa, more than 0.25 sacks. I mean, he's got to get that, right? I mean, I think he can get that like breathing on the Patriots.
Your guy, Trey Jacobs or whatever the hell, isn't up to the task. Is that what you're telling me?
Trey Jacobs, baby. Yeah. They totally had the 3rd pick in the waiver wire, and they got the steal of a guy. I'm going Brock Purdy, more than 9.5 rushing yards. I think that we've seen the Patriots have contain issues against Geno Smith, against Aaron Rodgers. Of course, they're going to double down on that. I think they were embarrassed. They should be embarrassed. But still, I think of, all the movement that the San Francisco 49ers get going back and forth. I think Purdy's going to break off, a couple. He's going to scramble at least a couple times. And then this is the one I don't feel great about, but he's on my fantasy team. So I'm pressing my luck. Juwan Jennings, more than 47.5 receiving yards. I think the Patriots will make Ayuk a priority, and I think that Jennings will shake loose. So that's what I have this week. Follow me on there. Enjoy the winnings. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game.
Greg, Gerard Mayo said this week that the team is not looking to add a veteran quarterback. Is that a mistake?
I think it is. I mean, I just like to have, even if the guy's on the practice squad, I just like to give myself options. I mean, we're seeing this all over the league. I mean, not just this year, but last year. I mean, quarterbacks are going to get hurt. And, whether it's Jacoby Brissett and or Drake May, I just want to give myself options more than Joe Milton. I mean, I do think that it would be in their best interest to let Drake bake a bit more. I know we're hearing more and more. I think some of it's because of, they played on Thursday night, so there's a lot to talk about. Of course, there's, some radio hosts out there locally who act like Veruca Salt and want Drake May now and, have been throwing a temper tantrum for weeks on end. And I want it now, daddy. And, so look, I don't know if he's ready yet. I mean, I would just give myself options, but this is sort of, what they've been going down. I mean, I remember asking people in the organization around cutdown day, like, all right, well, who's the veteran that you guys are signing? They're like, Joe Milton's the practice squad quarterback, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So I don't see why anything would change. And we're hearing a lot of reports about Drake May's really good in practice. Like, of course, I don't think the coaches are going to sit up there and be like, boy, he really stinks. Like, but it is what it is. Drake May's time is coming, probably sooner rather than later. And then we'll all see what happens.
You and I are on the same page when it comes to the veteran quarterback stuff. We've been having this conversation since they drafted 2 quarterbacks and had Zappe on the roster. And I'm not a Zappe guy, but I said then, and I feel the same way now, would not have been the worst idea to try to get Milton to the practice squad and keep Zappe on the roster because he's another veteran dude. And if you feel like May isn't quite ready, and as Greg always says, let Drake bake, if you want him to keep baking, then you'd have another option. And so now in the worst case scenario, which, I'm certainly not hoping for or wishing for, but Brissett goes down and then May gets banged up and now you got Joe Milton out there behind this offensive line, far from ideal. Don't love the idea. I try to, and I do a terrible job because I'm so stubborn and so tunnel vision, but I do try to understand people's arguments and try to look at them in a reasonable way. And I know there's a lot of people watching or listening to this podcast that they want Drake May out there right now. I really can't come up with a good reason why to play him right now. Like I just don't know how you watch this offensive line be on pace to, give up 170 hits on Jacoby Brissett. That's an actual number, folks. I mean, Mike Reese said Brissett's been hit 30 times the first 3 games. If you extrapolate that out, he's going to take 170 hits. And you want to throw May out there right now? Your wide receiver room is a shuffle act. We don't really know who the best receiver in the room is. They don't have Kendrick Bourne yet, who is the best receiver on this roster. Osborne's still getting too many snaps. You have an offensive coordinator who Greg has said he's literally just picking plays off the sheet right now, not really setting things up. And, Gerard Mayo comes out this week and says that they're still trying to figure things out, coaching staff, players, and everything. You want to put Drake May in the middle of that, right? Like, for the life of me, I don't get it. What is the rush? Wait a few weeks. If you got to wait a few weeks, let's see if the offensive line can get healthy. I don't understand it.
Well, and that's where I am, Nick. I'm the same way. It's like, when you talk about this Drake May thing and, you got to give me a good reason. And your entertainment value, your desire to watch the team, that's not a reason. That Jaden Daniels is doing X, Y, and Z is not a reason, because as we illustrated in the last podcast, like, they're 2 completely different prospects. And what Jaden Daniels is doing so far is not a surprise. Everybody knew he was the most pro-ready quarterback, especially because they're basically running the LSU offense. in Washington. And, he has Terry McLaurin, which certainly helps things. Look, I understand Drake May, and we even saw this in the Jets game. We've seen this in every time we've seen Drake May on the field. He is going to make some plays that make you sit up. The throw to Pop Douglas was really good. I wasn't a huge fan of the run on 4th and 8. I would have rather him thrown to Hunter Henry, but a lot of people, get excited about that. I do not. But as soon as Drake May gets in there, and who knows, it could be this week, given, San Francisco and their defense and the hits that Jacoby's taking. I can tell you, I can guarantee you, Drake May is going to make a couple plays in every game where you're just like, that dude's got something special, because he's a big, strong athlete, and those things show up at some point in time. Yeah. But everyone advocating for Drake May, none of them think about the downside. They just think about, they have visions of Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud like dancing in their heads. They don't think about, the Bryce Youngs and Mac Jones and Sam Darnolds and Zach Wilsons, and I do, we talked about this before. I do have a high level of trust in Drake in terms of his comportment when, dealing with adversity and things like that. Like, I think he's going to be one of these rare guys that can deal with that stuff. And he's not going to be overly taxed, but the more he plays and the more he's out there, the more he's going to get hit, the more he's going to get rushed, the more he's going to start looking at the rush, the more he's just not even going to let things develop, and he's just going to take off and run. And I just don't think those things are good for his development. But, I think his time is coming sooner rather than later.
There are a number of people who rubberneck and enjoy car wrecks. Are car wrecks good? No. So the entertainment value is just like, if it's a car wreck, you're going to watch it, but it's not good. And people say, oh, well, it's not going to be perfect, Nick. It's never going to be. Nobody is saying that it has to be perfect. Nobody is saying it has to be perfect. I said this on my podcast yesterday discussing Drake May. If you had these boxes before the season that needed to be checked, I don't think the Patriots have checked a single box. Wide receiver, play caller, offensive line, head coach, like the operation. I don't think they've checked the box yet to justify throwing Drake May out there. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's got to be better than what I've seen. And maybe they'll have a shot at, getting Vidarian Lowe at left tackle, and Jordan Robinson at left guard, Andrews at center, slide Onwenu back to right guard, give Caden Wallace the shot at right tackle. Then maybe with those 5 guys, you see a little bit better, or hopefully a lot better, pass protection over time. And Alex Van Pelt figures out how to help his offensive line, and his play calling improves as he gets more reps as the OC. And then Kendrick Bourne comes back in a week or two. A lot can change in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Even if it's better, not great, better to me is when you start to entertain Drake May. Not right now, my personal opinion. Juwan Bentley, quick note here, went to the IR. Kyle Dugger was named captain, Greg.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I guess it's not a surprise because, I assume isn't Peppers is already a captain, isn't he?
Yes, I believe. I'll look it up, and I'm pretty sure he is.
I don't see really who else they could have named. I mean, maybe Tavai, but basically having two of your safeties as the captain. I'm more worried about the calls. Like, I think with what went on last week, I wouldn't be surprised if
he is a captain, just to confirm.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if Dugger gets the green dot back this week, and which is good and bad. I mean, I think it frees up Tavai. Tavai played way too many snaps. He can't do that. Maybe you put him on the end and you're mixing packages, but this is a big week for Dugger, making sure everybody gets on the same page, because as soon as if you have a screw up, the 49ers are going to take it 80 yards.
Speaking of big week for Gerard Mayo after last week and what we saw in the Jets game.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're all sort of watching Gerard and grading things and how he's doing and things like that. To me, this is, one of the first really big measures. I mean, this is a team that got embarrassed on national television. We have no idea how these Patriots are going to respond to Gerard Mayo. We knew in the past with the past regime, pretty much, maybe not as much as the end. And certainly when number 12 was at quarterback, you could always count on the Patriots like bouncing back the next week after a bad performance. They would definitely answer the bell. Can this team do that? Do they have the belief in the coaches that they're going to put them in the right position to succeed? Or are there internal questions? And I think the start of this game is going to be huge. I think it's a huge moment for Gerard Mayo and sort of gives us an indication on, what kind of long-term success he's going to have. Because if these guys fly out there to Santa Clara and, again, don't really show up to play and get run over by the 49ers, well, I mean, that's a bad indicator on, how much Gerard Mayo is actually reaching these guys.
Yeah, I mean, these guys got to be ready for game time. And speaking of game time, Greg's ready to talk about game time.
That's right, I am. It's that time of year. It's football season. Temperature's getting cooler. I love football season. The smell's in the air. Pretty soon we're going to have a lot of leaves and fires. And you know what that tells me? I got to be out at a football game. Whether it's pro or college, I got to be there, and I go there with the Game Time app. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I love the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees. I hate those things. At checkout, seat views, get panoramic views from your seat in the app before you buy. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time. I'll try to beat you.
Good job.
All right, Patriots offense. Let's look at this matchup now. Niners coming up on Sunday. Patriots offense versus this Niners defense.
Yeah, I mean, look, like we talked about before, I don't think that the defensive line of the 49ers is as imposing as it used to be, especially without, Hargrave. We all know about Nick Bosa. I think Leonard Floyd on the other side is, I don't even know what he does anymore. I don't think he's that good. I don't even know if he was ever that good. But, the big thing is they have to go through a game. Alex Van Pelt has to go through the game, and especially this one, and say, and this is what coordinators do in the NFL, at least some of them, the good ones, they'll say, I'm not getting my quarterback hit this week, or at least I'm limiting the hits, especially early on in the game, and figure it the hell out. I mean, if you got to put, I was watching some of the Rams 49ers game, and Sean McVay put multiple people on Nick Bosa. He would put two tight ends on his side. He would run at Nick Bosa. He would bring guys in motion and crack down on them. I mean, just think back to, some of the matchups that, whether it was Joey or Nick, because they're similar, the Bosa brothers, but how many times, especially Joey Bosa, because I was surprised, Nick. I was looking back at the series. For some reason, I seem to remember more matchups with the 49ers where Kyle Shanahan completely blitzed the Patriots. But I guess it was just the one matchup, the 33-6 game at Gillette Stadium, where the Patriots had no shot. They were wiped off the field. But just think about those Joey Bosa games when he was with the Chargers. I mean, how many times the Patriots would either run at him or Brady would get it quick, and you see the film and he's just I can't get near him. I can't breathe. That's what coordinating is. That's what scheming is. Especially when you're dealing with a 49ers team, which, yes, Fred Warner's tremendous. But up front with all their issues, Nick Bosa is a guy you have to take care of. The whole game plan should revolve around that. Yep. So, that's what I want to see. I want to see them attack the safeties of the 49ers, who I don't think are great. I think it should be a big tight end game, but I don't care if you got to get out there and bring on an extra offensive lineman and stick them next to Nick Bosa. Just say, we're going to run the ball and we're not going to get our quarterback hit. You can do that if you want. Alex Van Pelt has just chosen not to do that, and he better do it this week, or, we're looking at another 100 yards of passing, which is just, embarrassing. I know Michael Hawley doesn't really believe in that stat, but it's freaking embarrassing, and it needs to be a lot better.
The Niners defense, not what you expect. They're not as good as you would expect. They're 19th in DVOA. They are 30th in opponents' yards per play. They've given up a bunch of yards per play. They are 21st in red zone defense. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record. I couldn't care less. Alex, Mr. Van Pelt, how are you? If you're listening to the podcast on your way out to San Francisco, hope the flight goes okay. Run the football. Okay? Run the ball. Run the ball. When you look at the Niners defense, they are 28th in run defense DVOA. They are literally one of the worst run defenses in all of football. Run the ball, Alex. This defensive line, Greg talked about it earlier with Javon Hargrave. He's out. And even with Hargrave, this D-line had the third lowest stuff percentage. Defensive line is not winning against the run. I watched the Rams game just like Greg did. You know what I noticed? Sean McVay running the football an awful lot up the middle. Two reasons. He thinks the middle is soft, which it seems to be soft. Secondly, you don't want Fred Warner going sideline to sideline. So let your big offensive lineman get to the second level and punish Warner and take advantage of that with some good runs. Run the football. The other thing I would say, Greg, what I think we've seen a lot, and this might change because the Jets didn't blitz a lot the first couple weeks of the season, and then it was like a Blitzapalooza on Thursday night. So maybe the Niners will go Blitzapalooza. Of course, Robert Saleh, former Niners defensive coordinator, a lot of similarities. But from what I saw and from what I have read and looked into, not a ton of tricks from this Niners defense. You're not going to have a lot of simulated pressures. They have the second lowest blitz rate in the league, so they don't blitz the quarterback an awful lot. Hargrave, I thought, had 5 or 6 splash plays last week against the Rams in the run and especially against the pass. He had 2 or 3 dominating snaps in pass versus pass protection. So you don't have Hargrave out there. Like Greg said, game plan for Bosa. One last note, defensive backs. Trevarius Ward's a good player, not great player, good player. He'll get caught with his hand in the cookie jar a few times. The rest of the defensive backs, San Francisco, 30th in pass yards per play. So they've been beaten up in the pass game as well. Hufanga is a good safety. He's a guy who's been awarded for his play, but he's coming off an ACL, so he's a little bit rusty. I don't know if he's ready to be back out there. And interestingly enough, San Francisco, they don't stack the box so very often as much as other teams do. So I just think the opportunity there is to run the football and take advantage of that up the middle and make this a time of possession game. I think that's what you've got to do. All right, before we get to the Patriots defense against the Niners offense, want you to check out BSJ, $50 for the year. Bedard Giardi do a great job with their coverage. I don't need to tell you, if you're watching or listening, you love Greg Bedard, or you hate watch him or hate listen to him. So why don't you just go hate read him at BSJ? It'll be worth it. All right, Patriots defense, 49ers offense. Just a couple things here, Greg, to set you up. This is a team that I think people misconstrue both McVay and Shanahan, and they think that all they do is just light it up and do spread offense and throw the football a ton. It's not the case. No. They like to run the ball, and that's why we talked about it during the summertime when people were losing their minds about Alex Van Pelt saying we're going to be a run-based offense. Well, guess what? The Lions, the Rams, the Niners, all of these offenses people love, they're run-based offenses, Greg.
Yeah, I would think that I think, and I mean, it's pretty much a fact that Kyle Shanahan does his best work. He's like a cut above everybody else because of what he does in the run game, and how he, there's a lot of illusions, there's a lot of motions, and it's all designed really to get the run game going. And he'll hit you in a bunch of different directions. What's interesting, I don't know if this surprises you, Nick, but it somewhat surprised me, because we talk about the Patriots defense and how talented they are. Did you know that the Patriots are 26th in defensive DVOA? They are, let's see, they are 25th against the pass, and they are 16th against the run. Last year, they finished 9th in defensive DVOA. So I'm a bit worried about this. And I think that, San Francisco might not have the weapons without Debo that they normally do. But I think we're going to see a lot of, they're going to mix personnel between 2 backs and 2 tight ends, and probably go with the 2 wide receivers most of the time. But look, the Patriots, I think Kyle Shanahan, he's just like Bill Belichick in that, if you're a team, you like to see those coaches early on in the season, because they put up a mirror and they tell you exactly where your weaknesses are, and then you can sort of work towards fixing them. I think that Kyle Shanahan is going to see a Patriots defense that is weak down the middle, that in the defensive tackle spot, opposite Devon Godchaux, they can't stop the run there. I think the linebackers without Bentley are weak, and I think the safeties are a bit overrated, especially against the pass. So I look for a lot of Mason, who's looks tremendous. I mean, he's such a power back with Juszczyk in the backfield. You're going to get Kittle and multiple tight ends, and there's going to be a lot of movement. It's going to be, to me, there's a couple things that I'm looking for the Patriots defense. They got to hold up at the point of the attack. They got to be disciplined in the gap, not only against the run, but also the pass. You can't get caught. This is where I worry about Kyle Duggar. A lot of the bells and whistles that Kyle Shanahan likes to do, that's the kind of stuff that Kyle Duggar gets distracted by. And then all of a sudden he forgets about coverage. And then there's a tight end, George Kittle's going down the field for 60 yards. So big week for this defense. If they're as good as they think they are, they're gonna have to really pull the rope for this team and really keep this team in the game.
Whether you believe in Brock Purdy or not, or you think it's a Kyle Shanahan thing, or I'll just tell you this: Brock Purdy's on a heater. He's 6th in passer rating. He's 4th in QBR. And he's not dinking and dunking. He's 2nd in yards per attempt. Completion percentage over expected. He's number 1 in football. The pass game, and Greg can break this down better than I can. I'll just tell you, the passing game for San Francisco is crazy efficient. They're, when you look at it, they're 23rd in pass rate, which brings me back to the whole pass run thing. And Shanahan bases his offense off of running the football. They're in the lower 10th, lower 3rd of the NFL in pass rate. They don't throw the football a ton, but they're 4th in yards per play, and they have the 2nd best passing yards per game. Again, efficiency. And we talk about Shanahan. Let me just give you some numbers here, Greg. This tells you they're 2nd in passing yards per game, okay? I want you to keep that in mind when I give you these numbers. They are 31st in the NFL in yards after the catch. 2nd worst team in football. They are 26th in YAC over expected. So they're not, they're not even expected to, they can't get yards after the catch. They're 31st when you look at the whole average target separation stuff. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the receivers don't consistently get open. They don't gain a ton of separation. Of course, Debo's been banged up, Ayuk, all that stuff. They don't get a ton of YAC. So how are they getting all of these passing yards? Kyle Shanahan. he schemes things up. He schemes them up. And he makes Brock Purdy crazy efficient. He makes this passing game efficient, and he gets the most that he can get out of pretty much almost anybody on the field. Brandon Ayuk, interesting, Greg. He's been pretty ineffective. And people can say, oh, well, that's because, he held out all of camp, and I'm sure that didn't help. But Grant Cohn, who I follow from my time out in Sacramento, he posted this. Ayuk, he hasn't been as good as you would think he should be or would be over a several game length now. I mean, when you look at his statistics over the last 7 games, 23 catches, under 300 yards, only 1 touchdown, and quarterback ratings 81 when throwing to Brandon Ayuk. So he hasn't been super productive in the last 7 games he's been on the field. One last thing I'll say about this before we get to the pick, and I think Greg can also highlight some of this stuff too, but I find it interesting if the Patriots are going to stuff the box with their issues against the run last week, because as Greg said, Shanahan, that'll open up some different things from Shanahan. But their run game versatility, Greg, you and I had the conversation earlier in the week about what Van Pelt wants to do, and all. They will run it in I form with use check. They will run it out of the gun. They will run it under center. They will throw tosses at you. They will run draws. They will run outside zone. They will run downhill. They will throw the whole kitchen sink of run game calls at this Patriots defense, Greg.
Yeah, 100%. And then also add in the fact that they're probably really pissed off that they blew that game against the Rams. So they are going to be extra on top of it. Shanahan's going to be pissed off. And remember, they didn't finish the game against the Rams. So probably finishing this game, if they get an early lead, is going to be paramount. But yes, this is the type of attack that leaves defenders dizzy, especially if you haven't seen it very much. Now, the Rams, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, they see it twice a year. So they're used to it. I mean, I just can't get the vision of the last time the 49ers and Patriots met. I want to say it was in, it was 4 years ago. So it was 2020. No, it would have been, 2020. And it was 33-6. And it was just a track meet. And even going back to when Harbaugh was there, when they came here with that team. And this is just it's a lot different than the Patriots have seen. And this is tough. Thank goodness they have 10 days to get ready for this game, because they're going to need it. And that's why I think we're going to get a real litmus test on not only Jerod Mayo, but all the coaches on this team. Can they do the job? Because they've had plenty of time to get ready for this, to get the players ready for it. Will that play out on Sunday? We'll see.
One last quick note from practice, because Doug Kai just tweeted this out. Doug from, of course, the Boston Herald. We can update you on some of the injury situations. So, according to Doug, Alex Austin was absent. Vidarian Lowe, City So, did not participate. Anthony Jennings did return. So, it looks like Demontre Jacobs could be your starting left tackle on Sunday. We'll see if Caden Wallace can get out there. I mean, Caden Wallace, no note on him, so I guess he could be ready to go. But needless to say, not great. Before we get to the pick, download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. Also, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. All right, let's get to this week's pick. I am 2-1 against the spread on the season. Greg is 1-1-1. We are both 2-1 straight up. You look at FanDuel. I saw 10.5. Greg has 10. We'll call it 10. So we'll have the Niners minus 10. The over-under is 40.5. Greg, you can once again lead off this week.
If the 49ers had won last week, I would probably pick the Patriots to cover the point spread. But the 49ers are 1-2. They ain't losing this week. They're not going to fall to 1-3. If Jerod Mayo and the team, first of all, if they pull an upset, this will be one of the greatest Patriots coaching performances ever. If they keep it close, I will be impressed. I don't like the spot for the Patriots at all. I like the 49ers big in this game. I'm picking the 49ers, let's say 32-10.
Okay. I think both teams can run the football. So I do wonder, the one thing about the over-under is I don't know how many possessions there will be in this game, because I think
Good point.
both teams can run the football. And if the Patriots play it smart, which you never know after last week, ladies and gentlemen, again, Alex, run the ball. If they run the football and both offenses run the football, fewer possessions, maybe not as many points as we might anticipate. But I think, the Niners are going to win this game. I think the Niners win by double digits. Double digits are always difficult in the NFL when we talk spreads. So I'm going to go Niners 24-13 because of the lack of possessions, but I wouldn't be surprised if you get up to like 30-13. But I think the Niners, they cover, they win the game. I'm going to go under, though, just guessing that both teams run the football a lot. I don't feel good about it. All right.
I don't hate it.
He's Greg. I'm Nick. Enjoy your weekend. I'm heading to an Oktoberfest on Saturday, so I am sure as hell going to enjoy my weekend because of that and good college football, by the way. If you're a college football fan, a couple good games this week. So everybody enjoy your weekend. We'll be back early next week to recap, hopefully, what is not a bloodbath.